the monarchy provides, with the Constitution, a degree of long-term stability that is actually quite hard to come by any other way.
When Princess Anne's lawyers finally revealed what Prince Edward had buried for 3 decades, it shook the royal family to its core. For years, secrets of royal privilege and hidden abuses had been carefully guarded, but the truth was too powerful to remain locked away forever. Documents, black market dealings, and shocking betrayals surfaced, linking Camilla's son to a scandal that could unravel the monarchy. Why has it taken so long for this to come to light? And how will Camilla's family react? So, what do you think? Did Camilla's family get away with these secrets for too long? Or is this just the beginning of something much bigger? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. To help us create more videos and reveal hidden royal truths, please subscribe. Royal Scandal Uncovered. Princess Anne's legal team has just made public a bombshell revelation that sheds light on what Prince Edward had worked so hard to bury for almost 30 years. The evidence now exposed uncovers a disturbing pattern of unauthorized access, the abuse of the royal name, and a series of deliberate cover-ups that are directly linked to Camilla's son, Tom Parker. The documents released have sent shockwaves through the royal family, sparking a frenzy of disbelief and concern within their inner circle. For years, Tom Parker had been secretly hosting underground wine tasting events inside Balmoral, the royal family's most sacred estate. What made these gatherings even more shocking was that they were not just casual affairs. They were black market operations, with wine being sold under the table. Tom had exploited his mother's royal clearance to disable the estate's security system, allowing him to hold these illicit events without being detected. His ability to freely manipulate access to Balmoral, using royal privileges for personal gain, is a betrayal that the royal family never saw coming. Now, with the release of this damning evidence, Tom Parker is facing a complete collapse, both financially and reputationally. The carefully crafted image of a well-connected royal family member is crumbling, and the consequences are severe. This evidence is irrefutable, a paper trail that cannot be ignored, and it places the entire royal family in a position they never anticipated. Camilla's family, once confident in their untouchable status, now finds themselves scrambling to respond, with no clear answers or defenses to offer. The release of this evidence is not just a minor scandal, it's a game-changer. It exposes a web of deceit that runs deep within the royal family, and no one is sure what the fallout will be. The impact is far-reaching, and the future of the royal family, once thought to be above reproach, is now in question. With the royal family's carefully constructed image hanging in the balance, the public is left wondering how deep the scandal truly goes. What other secrets have been hidden, waiting for the right moment to come to light? The release of this evidence is just the beginning of what promises to be an explosive series of revelations. Princess Anne's legal team has revealed what Tom Parker, Camilla's son, has been up to for the past 3 decades. But why did it take so long for the truth to come to light? Could Edward be involved in the misdeeds, or was he simply afraid that speaking out would stain the monarchy's reputation? Let's uncover the shocking details. The Balmoral betrayal. For nearly 30 years, the secrets hidden behind Balmoral's stone walls were carefully concealed, swept under the rug by those who were determined to protect the royal family at all costs. Prince Edward, the most cautious of the royal siblings, took it upon himself to guard the truth. A truth about the abuse of royal privilege, entitlement, and access that many would have rather kept hidden. There were whispers, certainly, but anyone who knew remained quiet. Lawyers, who had seen the damning evidence on paper, kept their lips sealed. The instinct of the royal family was always to preserve the institution, no matter the cost, and for 3 decades, this approach seemed to have worked. But then, everything changed. Princess Anne, ever determined and sharp-eyed, made an unexpected return to Balmoral, arriving 3 days earlier than planned. She expected the serene, majestic silence of the royal estate, the kind that usually welcomed a member of the royal family home. Instead, she was met with a far more unsettling quiet, one that suggested something was being hidden, something buried deep. Anne's steps led her straight to her late mother's private study, a room that had always been off-limits to most. There, she was confronted by signs of a betrayal so shocking that it seemed impossible. The beloved Ming Dynasty vase, carefully preserved and passed down for generations, was gone, replaced by a cheap, gaudy metal ornament that looked out of place in the sacred room. The Windsor crest rug, a treasured piece that had stood the test of time for over a century, had been scrubbed with harsh chemicals, its once vibrant colors faded and dulled, and beneath a velvet chair, partially hidden from view, lay a wine cork stamped with the words, "Vintage Reserve." It was a label Anne recognized immediately, one that was not authorized by any royal wine merchant and had no business being anywhere near the royal estate. It became painfully clear. Balmoral, the family's most cherished and protected sanctuary, had been transformed into a place of commerce. Someone with vast inside power had turned it into their personal playground, using the royal name for profit. This wasn't just a small misstep, it was a deliberate act of deception, and Anne had stumbled upon it. For the first time in decades, the family's carefully guarded secret was laid bare for all to see. The cover-up had finally been exposed. Edward chose to remain quiet about the secret he knew to protect the integrity of the royal family. But would Princess Anne condone what appears to be wrong? How disciplined is she? And what made her uncover the secret so easily? Now let's explore how Princess Anne's unseen instincts led to a dark discovery. The scent of betrayal. What made the scent in Balmoral impossible for Princess Anne to ignore was something that few people know about her. Unlike many in the royal family, Anne doesn't drink, not even occasionally, not for special occasions, not ever. This fact is well known to those who've worked closely with her, including her former private secretary, Captain Sir Nicholas Wright. In the ITV documentary Anne the Princess Royal at 70, he revealed that he was very jealous of Anne's remarkable self-discipline, particularly when it came to her decision to stay completely alcohol-free. Throughout countless charity galas, royal receptions, and grand events, where champagne flows freely and indulgence is expected, Anne has remained steadfast in her commitment to sobriety. For someone who has spent so much of her life in the public eye, surrounded by excess and luxury, her refusal to drink stands out as a powerful choice. But it's not just her discipline that makes this noteworthy. It's her extraordinary sensitivity to the world around her. Princess Anne has always had an exceptional ability to notice the smallest details, a trait that has made her stand out within the royal family. Her keen senses allow her to pick up on things others might easily miss. So when she walked through the royal halls and detected an unfamiliar smell, it wasn't just a passing odor, it immediately triggered a red flag. While others might have dismissed it as a minor inconvenience, Anne recognized it for what it truly was, a sign that something was off, something was deeply wrong. For Princess Anne, whose focus has always been sharp and whose instinct for uncovering the truth is unmatched, this was no mere coincidence. The scent wasn't just a passing disturbance, it was a clue, a sign that something darker was hidden beneath the polished surface of Balmoral. It was more than just a bad smell, it was a warning, one that would lead her down a path that would unravel the carefully constructed secrets of the royal family. What Anne discovered in that moment was just the beginning of a much deeper mystery, one that would soon shake the foundations of the family's centuries-old reputation. Beyond Anne's discipline, which played a key role in uncovering a dark secret within one of the world's most respected royal institutions, what measures were put in place to protect this secret? And who could be aiding Camilla's son in carrying out such a daring act? Let's uncover the shocking details. The secret blackouts exposed the royal estate's vulnerabilities. Princess Anne descended into the shadowy basement server room of Balmoral, her steps steady as she was joined by her loyal former aide, Michael. The air felt heavy with anticipation as they approached the secure area, passing through 3 increasingly complex layers of biometric security. Inside, the room was silent, but its contents spoke volumes. The surveillance archive, cold and unyielding, held a wealth of evidence that could not be overlooked. As Anne sifted through the records, the discovery was both shocking in its nature and chilling in its calculated precision, a truth too powerful to be ignored. Over the course of 8 months, Balmoral's internal security network had experienced 14 complete blackouts, each one occurring with unnerving regularity. These blackouts weren't random, they were planned, each lasting precisely 6 hours and occurring at the same time, night after night. The pattern was unmistakable. It was as if someone had carefully calculated each disruption, ensuring the estate's defenses were down for the same duration, on the same schedule, with no deviation. The most chilling part of the discovery was that every single blackout had been authorized by the same person. The authorization logs, usually a strict record of permissions, pointed directly to one name: Camilla. Using her royal queen's clearance, Camilla had permitted herself to disable the estate's defense systems 14 times. It was an abuse of power so deliberate that it couldn't be ignored. Each time the royal estate's once impenetrable security, the very system the late queen had meticulously built and trusted, was compromised, leaving Balmoral vulnerable to intrusion. The weight of the betrayal struck Anne deeply. Balmoral, once a sacred place of privacy and security, had been left vulnerable to unknown outsiders, moving through its halls without restraint. The layers of protection built over decades had been torn away, leaving behind a dangerous gap. It wasn't just a breach of security, it was the collapse of trust, opening the doors for anything or anyone to infiltrate the royal sanctuary. Anne realized the royal family's fortress had been shattered. For Anne, this wasn't just about broken security systems, it was a breach of trust. A betrayal that went deeper than the physical walls of Balmoral. What had been hidden under the surface for so long was now laid bare, and Anne knew this discovery would change everything. Upon investigation, Anne discovered that the security network had allegedly been compromised by Camilla to protect her son from accountability. But what evidence will Anne rely on to challenge this misconduct? And will her actions be decisive enough to expose corruption within the institution? Let's find out. Selling the royal name for profit. Years before the truth began to surface, Princess Anne had quietly installed an independent infrared camera network in Balmoral, a sophisticated solar-powered system that was completely hidden from the palace's own surveillance systems. This network was encrypted and, for all intents and purposes, invisible to anyone within the estate. Camilla, who had long operated with a sense of unquestioned authority, had no idea it existed, and that was precisely why Anne had set it up. It was a safeguard, a secret eye on the palace that would reveal what no one else could see. When Michael, her trusted aide, cross-referenced the footage from these hidden cameras with the data from the 14 scheduled blackouts, the truth appeared with brutal clarity. The footage revealed a series of shocking scenes that painted a picture no one could ignore. Unmarked vans arrived under the cover of night, their contents hidden from view but undeniably suspicious. Heavy wooden crates were unloaded and hauled through the staff entrance, their purpose unclear, but their arrival undeniable. Bentleys and Rolls-Royces, symbols of wealth and luxury, were parked haphazardly on the back lawn, their owners' identities unknown, but their presence unmistakable. Then, the footage zoomed in on a figure at the service door, none other than Tom Parker, Camilla's son. He stood there, casually handing cash to the side gate guard, as though he were distributing alms to the needy. It was a subtle but unmistakable act. Tom, it seemed, had been using Balmoral as the backdrop for something far more sinister. The once holy estate, a symbol of the royal family's power and legacy, had been transformed into an exclusive black market venue for wine tastings. The ticket prices were exorbitant, meant to attract newly minted billionaires eager to flaunt their connection to royalty, all in exchange for a taste of prestige. What was more shocking than the operation itself was the way Tom had leveraged the Windsor name. He was turning the castle's sanctity into a prop, using it to legitimize his cheap, underhanded wine business. To him, Balmoral wasn't a sanctuary or a royal residence. It was a stage set, a marketing tool to attract the rich and the powerful. This wasn't just a minor betrayal, it was a direct assault on the family's most sacred legacy. And for Anne, the discovery was more than just shocking. It was a wake-up call, revealing a betrayal that would shake the very core of the royal family. Princess Anne's hidden camera revealed Tom's wrongdoing, actions that were not captured by any other system within the estate. But how will Tom face this harsh truth? Can he possibly defend himself, or will he try to find a way to erase it? Now let's dive into how Tom Parker's desperation unraveled his royal deception. The digital trap. When Tom found out that Princess Anne had returned early and accessed the server room, he knew he had to act fast. His heart raced as he quickly moved to cover his tracks. He ordered the immediate removal of the wine crates from Balmoral and scrambled to shred any catering contracts that might raise suspicion. Then, using the top-tier authorization code that Camilla had secretly given him, he took a bold step. With one command, he wiped 8 months' worth of security data, a move he believed would erase any trace of his illicit activities. As he sat back and watched the progress bar slowly fill on his screen, a sense of relief washed over him. He thought he was safe, convinced that his actions had gone unnoticed. But he was gravely mistaken. Michael, always 3 steps ahead, had predicted Tom's move. Aware that Tom would attempt to erase his tracks, Michael had set up a clever digital trap. The deletion command Tom relied on didn't wipe out a single file as he thought. Instead, it silently captured everything Tom didn't expect. While Tom believed he was destroying the evidence, the trap had logged his device's location, recorded his IP address, and, most crucially, snatched Camilla's secret authorization code at the exact moment he tried to tamper with the files. The brilliance of the trap was in its quiet precision. In his rush to cover his tracks, Tom had unwittingly delivered the missing piece Anne needed. What he believed would be his escape had, in reality, sealed his fate. Every action he took, every effort to erase the truth, had been carefully captured. His attempts to destroy the evidence only made his guilt clearer. In the end, it was a cruel twist of fate. Both Tom and his mother had, through their own actions, unknowingly confessed to everything. Their efforts to hide the truth had exposed it all. The evidence was now irrefutable. Anne had what she needed to expose the full extent of their betrayal. What Tom had hoped would be a clean escape had instead become his undoing. And in the process, he had unwittingly implicated the very person who had protected him, Camilla. The game was over, and their secrets were about to be laid bare for all to see. Tom's attempt to erase his wrongdoing ended up implicating his mother. But how will Anne approach this situation? Will she remain silent due to Camilla's position, or confront her and her son to protect the noble image of the crown? Let's find out. The final confrontation. Camilla arrived at Balmoral, Tom by her side, her face set in an expression of cold determination. She had hurriedly flown in from London, intent on taking control of the situation and shielding her family's name from further damage. But when she stepped into the grand drawing room, Anne was already there, waiting. Sitting perfectly still, her posture straight and hands neatly folded in her lap, Anne exuded calm confidence. There was no entourage, no hint of anxiety, just Anne, alone, ready for whatever confrontation lay ahead. She was prepared for this moment. Before Camilla could even get a word out, Anne slid a gold-plated VIP invitation card across the polished marble table. It gleamed under the light, a stark reminder of the scandal it represented. Exclusive Windsor wine tasting night. Anne didn't stop there. She then placed a USB drive, followed by a handwritten guest list, on the table. The list was dotted with the names of billionaires, but it wasn't just their names that caught attention. Scrawled in the margins were figures, bank transfer amounts, payments that painted a damning picture. The message was clear. Camilla's usual calm demeanor cracked. Her eyes briefly darted, betraying a flicker of panic as she reached for the card. The reality of the situation hit her hard. Behind her, Tom, who had been standing tall moments before, visibly collapsed. His legs buckled, and he seemed to crumple under the weight of the truth, the magnitude of his actions finally catching up with him in that overwhelming moment. Anne, however, remained calm. Her voice was steady, almost clinical, as though this was a conversation she had already won. 14 times, she said, her eyes locking with Camilla's. 14 times you used your queen's clearance to breach this family's security grid. You turned the queen's sanctuary into a cheap circus for your own benefit. The Windsor family is not your personal public relations tool for parasites. The words hung in the air like a sentence, heavy with finality. Anne had laid bare the betrayal with chilling precision. There was no room for denial, no escape from the reality of their actions. What had once been a carefully hidden scandal was now exposed, and the truth was undeniable. The game was over, and Anne had won. Anne revealed the evidence of Tom's wrongdoing and Camilla's role in aiding him, a truth neither of them could deny. But will the confrontation be the end of it? Or will they be made to pay for their actions? And what price will they likely pay for their disgraceful behavior? Let's uncover the details. The fall of an empire. Anne didn't need the press or the police to make her statement. She had everything she needed in her hand. She extended her palm, and Michael, always by her side, handed her a tablet. Without hesitation, she tapped a single command. In an instant, Camilla's biometric access to Balmoral, Sandringham, and every other royal estate in the family's network was revoked. The action was swift and decisive. For the next 2 years, Camilla was no longer an owner of those spaces. She had been stripped of her privileged status and reduced to the rank of an unwelcome guest in her own palaces. The sense of loss was immediate and crushing. Camilla, who had once wielded power over royal properties, now found herself locked out of the very estates that were supposed to belong to her. Anne had taken her power back, reclaiming control of what was rightfully the family's. It was a humbling blow to Camilla, and the implications were far-reaching. For Tom, the fall was even more catastrophic. Anne had already set her plan in motion. Michael, ever loyal and efficient, was instructed to leak the full guest list, including the names of the wealthy individuals who had attended Tom's illicit wine-tasting events, into financial intelligence networks. Within hours, the news spread like wildfire. By the time Tom's phone started ringing with calls he couldn't ignore, it was already too late. His investors had pulled out. His business partners had distanced themselves. Shareholder lawsuits were already being filed, flooding the courts. Tom's empire, built on borrowed prestige and the royal name as a shield, collapsed in a single morning. His wealth and influence, once solid foundations, evaporated, leaving nothing behind. The life he had meticulously crafted through lies, manipulation, and deceit was now in ruins. What had once seemed unshakable was reduced to dust, and there was no turning back. In one swift move, everything he had built was destroyed, leaving him with the harsh reality of his actions. As if the financial collapse wasn't enough, Tom was physically escorted from the royal grounds. Guards, following Anne's orders, ensured he was removed from the premises without ceremony. He was banned permanently from all crown territories, a fate far more severe than he had ever imagined. In one swift, calculated move, Anne had dismantled everything they had built, leaving them with nothing but the ruins of their own ambition. Anne decisively dealt with Tom, a move that also affected Camilla's privileges within the royal family. But why was Anne's decision so swift? And what does it mean for the future of the monarchy? Could her actions have safeguarded the monarchy's integrity? Now, let's uncover how Princess Anne shattered the royal illusion of immunity and defended the Windsor legacy. A legacy protected. What made Anne's response so powerful wasn't simply the evidence. It was the years of quiet preparation that had led to this very moment. She had been meticulously laying the groundwork, knowing that one day this confrontation would come. The independent camera network, which she had set up years ago without anyone knowing, was her silent observer, catching every illicit action without detection. Alongside her, Michael, her trusted aide with MI5 training, was always on hand, ready to support her at every turn. They were prepared for what might come, but more importantly, Anne understood something the others didn't. Those who abuse the royal family's name rarely expect anyone inside it to push back. They think they are untouchable, above reproach. But Anne had a different vision. She had seen the cracks in the royal facade, the way some members had taken advantage of the family's privileges without a second thought. For years, a dangerous assumption had been allowed to grow the belief that royal access was a right to be borrowed and misused without fear of consequences. Anne was about to shatter that belief completely. The secret that Prince Edward had tried so hard to bury for 30 years wasn't just about one single event or scandal. It was about something much deeper, a pattern of exploitation, a way of thinking that had infected the royal family. Anne knew this, and she had prepared herself for the day when she would have to confront it head-on. She had already anticipated every move, every possible action that might be taken to cover up the truth. And now, the time had come to expose it all. As the last of the evidence was revealed, the reaction was swift and final. The majestic silence that had once enveloped Balmoral returned, but this time it felt different. It was no longer the silence of a family hiding its secrets. Instead, it was the quiet aftermath of a battle won, a message sent loud and clear. The oak doors of the estate closed, and in that moment, Anne knew that the royal name carried weight not just in the world outside, but within the family itself. The message Anne left was clear and impossible to ignore. The Windsor name was sacred, and there were those within the family willing to defend it at any cost. She didn't just confront her family's betrayal, she seized control of their legacy, making sure it would never be misused or tarnished again. What was once seen as a passive protection of the family's reputation had transformed into something far stronger, an active, fierce defense, unyielding and relentless, ensuring that no one could threaten it again. So, what do you think of Princess Anne's decisive action? Has she done enough to protect the monarchy's image? We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe.